Hello everyone, it is time for this week's live stream. I can't believe it's 2:12 when I finally started talking. I always shoot for 2:08. So Fritz is our sponsor and we want to make sure that we thank them by using their products. I use their products myself. I have several that I use, but you know, as a hobbyist, I actually am kind of diversified across a lot of different products. So I specifically use their salt. I use their Monster 460 to lower the waste level of my tank. I use the glass cleaner. Those are the three off the top of my head right now. But there's so much. I mean, they have the stuff. If you guys are two-part dosers, which I'm not, they have the alkaline, the calcium, the magnesium. I even asked them, do you guys have the potassium? But I know they also have bottles of stuff. So odds are they do have it in bottle form, just not the style I would use for my reef tank. Maybe. I can't remember the answer to that one. But I just wanted to let you guys know this works. You can cycle a brand new tank with it, or you can be using it on an older tank like mine. My reef is over 10 years old and still going. Coral Magazine, this is the issue that has been out for like the last month or so. You see that link at the bottom of the screen, coralmagazine.com/Milev23. Every single week I ask you to subscribe, and I really mean it today. It's super important, because if you've been like holding off, you got to pull the trigger this weekend, because the next issue goes to press basically on Monday. And if that's the case and you don't get subscribed now, and you subscribe in 3 days or in a week or whatever, you won't get this one. You'll have to basically wait 3 months for the next issue. So I'm going to encourage you today to spend the $39. It's actually $37 and change using that link to get a 1-year subscription to Coral Magazine, something that I spend a lot of hours on to make you a fantastic read. And I'm telling you, this issue is going to be amazing. So I didn't even give you the new cover. Instead, I showed you the one that's live. But the new one's coming, and I am very excited for everyone to read it. We have an incredible advanced aquatics. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to go to the next slide. I do offer consultation services, one-on-one. If you have questions, if you're not sure about what's going on, if you're just wanting some hand-holding and not just, and you're nervous about asking questions online or whatever, I'm here. So you can reach out to me through my website. It's sales@milevsreef.com, and I will talk to you via video chat, and I'm happy to help you. And I'll tell you, I get customers that will, they place an order through my website, and then I call them, and they're like, oh my God, you're that guy on YouTube. I'm like, yes, I'm calling you because you placed an order. I want to make sure I fill it correctly. And they're like, it's just crazy that I'm actually talking to you. I'm like, no, I'm a real person. So yeah, I do encourage you guys, feel free to reach out to me if you're needing some help. So I'm using a different camera angle because I had to do something this week. I had to pop off the Nikon off the tripod to take a product shot, because I get to have an ad in this issue of Coral Magazine. And it was like the perfect placement. And I was, can I put an ad next to that? And they're like, yes, you can, this one time. So I know that sounds weird. I mean, yes, I could have as many ads as I want if I had all the money to pay for that. But, this time here, this one worked. I had done a lot of extra work on the side, and we're kind of, it's all happening. Just trust me. Nothing is, it's great. It's kind of exciting to have my own ad in the magazine for once. I badly worded that, but I'm still excited. So we're using the OBS bot, which I usually use for the Q&A, and so you get a different angle. And I can show you the Coral magazines at the top there. Those are the ones that I have already published. I have another box right here. This is the next picture frame that is going to hold the next issue. That'll go up on the wall in about 2 weeks. So, it's cool, right? I'm pretty excited to just work on that a little bit at a time. All right, I got to move things because things are overlapping. They're not supposed to do that while I'm talking to you. All right, here, that's a little bit better. Sorry about this side. I wish that side looked better, but I had to get into this room somehow. So, news. There's stuff happening. I want to show you guys some stuff. I think I'm just going to throw the pictures on top of me. But again, the subscription thing for Coral Magazine, it's already in the link. There's a link already in this video's description. You can click on it right now. And yeah, just do it. Just pull the trigger. I've told you guys it doesn't cost much. The normal subscription for a year is $39, and my link saves you like $2.06, so it's a little bit cheaper. If you were to buy the magazines one at a time, they're $10 a piece, and they're shipping. So it's so much better to get that subscription. I'm going to keep hammering away at you. And I know some of you get them at your fish store, which means you're supporting your local store, so there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like not enough people are. I just feel like there's more of you out there that haven't pulled the trigger for whatever reason. And also, if you're not wanting a print copy, if you're like, I don't want to, pollute the environment because now I have to save this or throw it away, there's a digital edition that's even cheaper that you can subscribe to. And when you get the digital edition, you get to see all the older magazines. So you kind of get a whole library instead of just like one magazine that when you subscribe to a book, through Amazon services, when you're putting on the Kindle, it's that book. With Coral, you get them all the way back to like 2014. So there's a lot of good content available for you. Okay, so newsy things that happened this week that I was just like, what is happening? Before I say it, I wanted to say it's funny that there is breaking product news this week, because historically, for me, who's been in this hobby since 1997, we would look forward to the big reveal at MACNA each year, which is always September. And, throughout the summer, there's hustle and bustle, and there's conjecture, and there's excitement, and like, what's going to happen? What are we going to see at MACNA this year? And ever since COVID kind of wrecked the planet and changed everything and affected supply chains and, isolated us all from each other, and it's hard to actually get people to come to conventions now, they're kind of like, I don't need to do that. And yeah, you do, but the mentality is like, you don't need to. And you're cheating yourself by not attending. So I'm going to urge you to go to this year's MACNA. It's in Orlando, Florida, right next to Disney World. Gives you something to do on the side if you get bored, which you won't. And I would encourage you to go. MACNA is an educational event. It has speakers on Friday. There's some other stuff happening on Saturday and Sunday. There's a ton of vendors there. You have the opportunity to ask questions about products you already own. You have questions about products you haven't owned yet. There's things to learn constantly throughout the 3-day event. And I actually encourage you to go all 3 days. Don't just think of it as a 2-hour walkthrough like a frag swap. This is actually, you're supposed to stay there and really take it all in. I've always referred to MACNA as a reef keeping university for the weekend. And after 3 days, not only do you get this education that really seeps into your every pore, it also allows you, it re-motivates you with your tank. You go home, you're like, I want to do things. I want to fix things. I want to try something new. And it just gets things going. It stirs you up again. It gets you out of the rut. So I want to encourage you to go to that. But that being said, for some reason, companies like Neptune Systems and CoralView have both released new products this week to the world. They told everyone about it. Now, the actual product, let's just show you the first one. So this is one that has been requested for years, and it is the new Trident NP. And what this is, I gotta scoot over here. the camera's gonna follow me. Let me put it up here. The Trident NP is a nitrate phosphate automatic tester. And this thing already exists. I mean, it's real. It's happening. And according to what I saw, no one's told me this, but what I saw was that it starts selling April 15th, which is in 2 days. So it's actually going to become available almost immediately. So if you're already a Trident user and you were thinking, man, I wish I had a nitrate and phosphate tester, there it is. That is it. That's the first thing that they came out with. And then they came out with something else at the same time. There was another reveal. It is right here. Hopefully this works. This is a new dose called Dose Quiet Drive. And you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. Kind of makes sense that they'd have a quiet drive since the owner of Neptune and of Ecotech are the same umbrella. And, you know, we've been using the Vortec quiet drive for years. So the new Dose quiet drive, the only thing I know is it's quieter. It's just a quieter Dose, which I think is fantastic, because that is the one thing that has made me resist getting one forever. I always heard from everyone they're so loud. And many people like to use them as an automatic water change machine. And so it has to churn away for hours, and you would just hear it rumbling. So as far as I know, people schedule it to rumble during the night while they're asleep. I see people with 2 of these, 4 of these, 6 of these. I mean, the Dose, and they have every single tube go into something. And I've not done that. I've not gone that route. So this one catches my eye. And I noticed the packaging is different this time, only that the boxes are dark. Usually it's always been that light silver. Maybe the products inside will be darker this time. That's something I don't know. I don't know prices. I don't know anything. But it's a new thing, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Now that I've whetted your appetite, you can go out there and you go look for it. And you can go find out all the facts for yourself. I'm not doing your homework because, listen, I'm doing all the homework for you for Coral Magazine. And there's only so much of me to go around. So instead I was like, I'm just going to give you a hint, and then I'll let you go on with your life. All right. About 3 weeks ago, this product right here from Hydros came out called the Launch. Now, this is the brain that, well, actually, I'll leave it big for a moment here. This is now a brain, power bar, and sense port all on the exact same device. It's basically what I would, I have no affiliation with Coral View specifically, so I can pretty much have any opinion I want. I do use the Hydros on Caitlin's Reef. I'm just going to say this is what they should have started with. And it's kind of what I, anticipated. When they first came out, I kept saying I can't wait to see where you guys are in 2 years. So this one here gives you 4 outlets to plug in a few things. It gives you places to plug in probes. It gives you places to put in sensors, for like high and low water level, water on the floor, that kind of stuff. And of course, you can daisy chain off of it to other power bars or other modules. So Launch came out about 3 weeks ago. And I was like, all right, cool. So if someone hadn't got into the Hydros family yet, I'm going to put this way over here. They could get the Launch now. That could be their starting piece. And then they could decide how to branch out from it. But they could literally plug it in and get started and get a few things going on their tank immediately. Like control a heater, turn on or off pumps. So like during a water change, you could activate a button on the app, and you could just change water and then hit the button on the app, or let the timer count down, and it all just resumes automatically instead of having to remember to plug things back in. So that's pretty cool. But then they came out with this. I'd say this came out a week ago, maybe 2. And it is called the Minnow. And it's itty bitty cute. And actually, I could see myself using this on Caitlin's Reef. So this, again, is a brain. Every single module of the Hydros apparently has the brain. So that way, if one brain fails, the other brain can take over or keep things running, which is kind of smart, right? So this one, it has no plugs to turn things on and off, but you do have some sense ports, and you have a couple of dosing heads built in. It's just a little tiny monitoring device, as far as I can tell, with some dosers. So if you were just trying to track your temperature and maybe pH, and I don't know what else you'd plug on that, you could, and make sure the floor doesn't get wet, and you wanted to dose a couple things on the tank, the Minnow could be really handy. And then they revealed this one yesterday, and it blew my mind. So this is the Maven. I actually released it 2 days ago. So the Maven is a brand new, in development, this is what it looks like, 5-in-1 water tester. It will test alkaline, calcium, magnesium, nitrate, and phosphate. It checks them all. And people lost their minds. They're like, oh my God. So that's pretty cool, right? And I don't know much about it. I saw like a 60-second video, and they illustrated that part where it says Hydros right there on the lower part. That comes off, and the test vial is right there. So the vial is on the front of the sealed container, and I'm assuming that if like the vial were to overflow, it couldn't get on the electronics. It would just somehow run down the front, which is a smart move where you don't want your innards to get ruined. And I don't know anything about price. I don't know anything about when it's going to come out, but it's something that is being developed here in the US. So that's pretty exciting. So yeah, you got all these new things from Hydros coming out. And of course, this is obviously an add-on module to an existing hydro system, because I don't see any kind of plugs. I do see a couple let me look at this a little closer. I see a couple of drive ports to turn something on and off, which might be the pumps that feed liquid in and out of it. And then I see a couple of sense ports, and maybe one would be so you can accurately measure pH, possibly. But you can see right there, alkaline, nitrate, phosphate, calcium, magnesium. How come they forgot to put potassium on here? Come on, guys. Anyway, that's something new. That's going to be some point in the future. I have zero idea when, but I feel like it's months away. But still, it's not an imaginary thing. It's something to look forward to. Okay. And then another piece of news, don't have a picture for it. The Hawaiian fisheries, you know how they've been closed down? God, it feels like 5 years. Maybe that's accurate. They are being reviewed because, you know, there's been so much data collected about what is going on with the fish population in the ocean. And, you know, they said that the aquarium trade is taking away all the fish and they're ruining Hawaii's waters, and, you know, it's got to stop. You know, there's a bunch of activists. And the activists, after so many years, won the battle, which shocked everyone. Well, anyway, the courts requested proof, which has been provided to them forever and a day. They have always had the information. The data has always proven that there's more fish there now than ever before. And so think about this. This is kind of an interesting little side thing. If it's true that the aquarium trade has really harmed the fish population in Hawaii, which it's not, then why are people in 2024 saying when they go in the ocean they're not seeing any fish? You know, and I'm talking about Hawaii. They're actually complaining. Tourism is complaining there's nothing to see. It's just boring. There's just some rocks. And they've had 5 years plus for the fish population to just completely recover, and it hasn't. And then I was reading something recently where it talked about how there was this one area that had, you know, been shut down from tourism for a while, and it was full of fish. And then tourism said, okay, we're going to reopen that lagoon or something. And all the people stomped in there, and there's no fish. Huh. So is it the aquarium trade, or is it the tourists that are chasing the fish off into the deeper waters to get away from human beings? You know? So, yeah. We never were the problem. We have so much data to prove it. The data has been provided to the courts. There was an open period where you could send in a message to the courts to be heard that you want them to pay attention to the data and not to the emotional appeals of, you know, basically local Hawaiians that feel that their island is being mistreated because it's emotional. So frustrating, right? So maybe we'll get some good news in the coming weeks or by this summer, because, you know, all these processes always take a while to go through, but they're being heard. It's not just like dead silence. There's an actual appeal going on right now. So that is exciting. And then next month, yours truly will be at Aquashella. So I would like, look, that's me. I can just sit here and talk to you like this for the rest of the show. I will be speaking at Aquashella on the 19th, which is Sunday, at 1 p.m. People always ask me what time, so I found out. This presentation is a new one, and I think it'll be a fun one. The event is taking place in Dallas this time, so it's near me, which means I get to go home each night and take care of my dog, take care of my Reef. But I do encourage you to come see me at Aquashella. Come have some fun. Come check out the stuff. And listen, Aquashella, I'm there for the saltwater stuff, obviously, but there's a whole bunch of freshwater, and there's reptiles, and there's art, and there's music, and there's drinking, and it's fun. So, you know, I encourage you to attend. I've been to a bunch of them. I actually have a stack this high of Aquashella t-shirts. I think I stopped getting them because I have too many t-shirts. And really, I only want to wear this one all the time anyway. So yeah, you should come. Also, I'm going to vanish from the United States here in less than a month. I'm going to Interzoo in Germany. So I'm thinking about hopping over to Switzerland. So if you're watching this and you're like, you need to check out this place in Switzerland, please tell me now so I can plan ahead, because I'd like to hop over there. My family, my mother's side of the family is from Switzerland, and when I was a kid, I went to school there. I learned Swiss German and Hochdeutsch, and so I am, and I've always been, my mother always called me a Heimwehschweizer, which means a homesick Swiss, which is really funny because she just wanted to live in America, and all I wanted to do was live in Switzerland. And at one point in my life, I'd actually considered moving. I was going to just move there and put everything behind me and just live over there and do something there. But I didn't, and then that led to Mila's Reef just becoming a little tiny empire here in Texas, and a YouTube show, and now an editor of Coral Magazine. So, I mean, things work out the way they work out. So that is all the latest news. Is there something else I want to tell you? I don't think so. But I do want to, you know what? I'm going to grab a picture. I want to show you guys something. Oh, this is going to take me a minute. If you can just be patient, that would be awesome. I want to show you guys this because I want to give you a preview of something that is going to be in Coral Magazine. And I've got to go to the right issue. I've got to go to incoming. I got to go to our images directory. I got to go to that one there and go to that one there. Is it this one? Yes, it is this picture. So the reason I'm showing you this is because I didn't have enough room in the magazine to make this picture this big. So I'm going to make it this big on your screen right now. Whether it's your phone, turn your phone sideways. If it's on an iPad or a tablet, make it horizontal. If it's your TV, leave the TV. Don't turn your TV. I want you to see this picture because it's so adorable. Okay, so what you're looking at here, this little pile of adorableness are fish eggs, obviously, and they're called the red, I know they're not red, they're called the red handfish. And these eggs are 42 days old. The photo was taken by Andrea Williamson. It came from Australia. These fish live in the Tasmanian Sea. And this little guy on the top, I can't make the picture any bigger than this, just looks like a rubber ducky to me. I was like, oh my God, it is so cute. And when I had the picture on my phone, I zoomed in to make it even bigger. And I was like, look at that little rubber ducky. He's so cute. I want him in Coral Magazine. So I reached out to the authors of the article that I found, and I said, can we get permission to publish your story? And it took some time, and I had to have room in the magazine. And so that right there, these adorable little ducks, they are going to be in this upcoming Reef notebook. So that's something to look forward to. Now, I'm going to tell you extra stuff about it that I'm going to kind of give you a preview of this story because there's 116 pages in Coral. So for me to talk about what happens in a few paragraphs on one page, I'm not robbing you of the reading experience. But let me tell you this. Number one, I didn't know what a handfish was. I've never heard of it in my entire life, and it's never been uttered around me in 27 years. I've not seen talks about it. I've not heard anyone utter it. I've not seen anyone in a public aquarium display one. It doesn't exist. I'm like, what is a handfish? Why? That is such a weird name. So I've got another picture I can show you really quick that I just got early this morning because I've been staying up late every night. So this would be in here, I think. So I'm going to show you a handfish. I think I'm going to show you this one. Yeah, I like this one. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. Okay. It's crazy looking, right? Kind of looks like a frog. Definitely been covered in all kinds of paint. It's got that little squiggly thing on the front, which of course I don't remember the name of, but they use it to like lure in food, like an anglerfish. But it's not an anglerfish. It's a handfish. And if I shrink this down, you can see the hand. See in the front? So this fish, this incredible, unbelievable fish is super duper rare in the marine, in the ocean. Just period. I'll make it a little smaller so I could hit my head against it. But This fish, there are so few on the planet. It's virtually extinct. I'm going to do this. The chat is going right now. And I'm going to give you time because I know there's like a 20-second lag. How many of this fish do you think exist on the planet? Forget those eggs. Just the fish in the ocean. What would be your guess? And I told you already, they're only in one ocean, Tasmanian Ocean, which is the southeast part of Australia. How many do you think there are? Let's see what kind of guesses we get. Now, let me tell you more about this fish. They are very small. They they don't hang out in groups. They absolutely have to live in macroalgae because they dwell in it, they hide in it, they hunt their prey there, and they're ridiculously cute. Paul, the old reefer, guessed 100. Elaine says 27. Reef Keeper says 1,000. Andrea says less than 100. I'm trying to put all these on the screen. Mad Sheps Reef says 860. I like these very specific numbers. That's fantastic. Richmond's Reef said 30. Larry says 7. Okay, now that's a very depressing person. Protex Remodeling says 837.7. Michael Noonley says 500. So there was an official count made in 2019. Thank you all for your guesses. That was awesome. I love doing a little interaction. I don't do it nearly enough on this live stream. In 2019, the count of these fish, the total count that they exist in the wild was 100. Who said 100? Merrick P, you're correct. Merrick P, I got to send you something. Send me a message later. I'll ship you something as a gift. That was a good, you landed on it. That was fantastic. There's 100 left on the planet. That's it. 100. And that is and I've checked. I've gone to so many articles. I mean, I did a deep dive for this little notebook story, and they only had 2 spots in that area where these fish live. One was 50 meters long. One was 75 meters long. I mean, it's literally like a 5-mile square radius where these fish exist on the entire globe. They have not migrated. There used to be a much bigger population. I think it was discovered in like 1890. And they are so incredibly rare. And I found a video, and there's going to be a link in the Coral Magazine, which I know you can't click, but you could in the digital edition, which is cool. But there will be a link, and you can just type it in, and it'll take you to a video that I found on YouTube where I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was March, these divers stumbled on one. Think about it. Out of the whole planet, they actually found one completely on pure chance. And the fish is maybe 3 inches if it's a mature fish. They're very, very small, and they happen to spot one in some wreck or under some wreck. It looked like wreckage to me, or something had gotten into the ocean that was a big obstacle. And it was a little pink one. And the divers were talking, and when divers talk, depending on what gas they're using, they can sound like they're on helium. And it sounded like helium gas, which is kind of weird because these fish are they're in shallow waters. They could be down 3 feet, a meter, to down as low as, I'm doing all this from memory, I think as low as 30 meters, which is, I guess, like 90 feet, 86 feet. So you've got between 3 and 86 feet, which is really what they call recreational diver. But, and I looked on a website called iNaturalist. So that website is actually pictures of things people see in the ocean, and they do the coordinates, the locations. And so I found like maybe 30 pictures of this fish. So, and then there's a map and it shows little dots where they locate them all in this little tiny spot of the ocean. And it's just, I cannot believe there's only 100. So the story is good because there is a group called the Handfish. I really should have all my notes in front of me. Well, it's in the magazine. So, and I'll share more about it later. But I'll do a thing. I'll do a story on Instagram and on Facebook where I'll provide this information because I feel like it's important. I think it's the Handfish Conservation something. The Handfish. Oh my God, I can't remember. Give me a second. I'm just gonna open my email. It'd be so much smarter if I was fully prepared. but I didn't really have this on my list. I decided to add it because it's so interesting. So let me find this really fast. Okay, I got too much stuff on my screen. I can't get to it. Please stand by. Just entertain yourself with eggs. Good. Even my email knows this is the same person I want to talk to. They are the... Handfish Conservation Project. And they've been around for years. And they have been trying to save these fish. They're trying to protect them. And check this out. I told you there's 100 in the ocean. In January of this year, they took 25 out of the ocean and put them in aquariums at this university to protect them because there's a heat wave down there and the water's getting too warm. And you would think, can't they just swim deeper and be cooler? There's another problem now. Of course, there's another problem. So what happened now is because the water's warmer, a bunch of native urchins in the area migrated because of the warmer waters and started eating all that macroalgae. And remember I told you they needed that macroalgae to live in? They've decimated it. So the handfish don't have their normal habitat. They've lost their protection, their breeding grounds, all that kind of stuff. So they decided to collect 25 of them and get them into captivity to protect them. And also, this project for years has been trying to collect their eggs and raise them on land and then train them to, hunt so they can be put back in the wild to repopulate their populations, to get more fish in the ocean. And I think it was in 2021 they were able to reintroduce 47. And then this little cluster of eggs, which you're going to read about in Coral Magazine, that was from December. And they were little tiny itty bitty things, like when the little tiny mandarins came out, from Matt Wittenrich, when he'd bring to Magna tiny baby mandarins that were so small that on his table at his booth at Magna, he had test tubes in a test tube rack like a scientist. And when he held the test tube up, there was a little mandarin in the bottom of all this water. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. I've always loved tiny things. So anyway, the handfish thing, fascinating to me. I'd never heard of it. Now you have. And I hope you guys really enjoy the story. I know I kind of spoiled it for you a little bit, but there's a whole bunch more. So, I didn't spoil it completely. I just gave away some of the stuff I knew because I'm just all obsessed with it right now. And they want people to talk about these fish. They want more talk about it on social media. So, I'll be providing links and stuff to help get the word out that they're trying to do more and more to protect these fish. And hopefully they will not be extinct so that way our children can see them too. All right, that's all my topics for today. I've already done it. Let's do some questions and answers. Look, here's one right here. There's Amanda. Amanda says hi. She wrote a huge article for this issue of Coral Magazine. It's so long. It's like 16 pages, 17 pages, and it's about the elegance coral syndrome. And something that has actually been an ongoing problem for, I would say, at least 14 years, if not longer. And this story talks about how they have cured it. They've solved it. It will never be a problem again for certain people. So I'm not going to tell you anything else. But now at this point, you can get healthy corals and be less prone to worry about problems. And if something were to crop up, they have a solution that will prevent you from losing that coral, which is pretty exciting. All right. So Dave says, have you tried the Hydros controller yet? If so, how do you like it compared to the Neptune system? I have on Caitlin's Reef is the Hydros. It is the X3 brain with the XP8 power bar. I have the rope that goes around the inside of my cabinet. And it has a pH probe on it. And a temperature probe, of course. And it turns things on and off. Like it turns off my heater. Okay, here are the things plugged in. The heater, which is a 75 watt heater because it's a 27 gallon tank. There is a Sicce Shark Pro, the smallest one they sell, which is a little tiny in-tank filter that has sponges and carbon in the middle. And so that is in there. The UV is plugged in. The UV pump, which is another little tiny itty-bitty C-shaped pump to feed the UV. And the Nero 5 power head to have circulation in the tank. So those 5 things are controlled by the hydros. Now, basically, you would think, well, and the light is plugged into that as well. So you would think those are just on-off situations. You know, either you need it or you don't. Well, when I use the app, which I'll show you, I'm going to hold it up, and I think it'll look fine on screen. Let me change this one thing so it looks more logical. Tiles. So here is my app right now. Look, it stayed in focus. And it shows the temperature of the tank, the pH of the tank. It shows that it's dry, that there's no water in the cabinet. And then it shows the different outlets that are on. And look, the heater is turned off right now because it's not needing any heat because the tank's 76. I actually like to keep that tank at 75. Now, right across here at the top, let's see what happens if I go, yeah, nice. If I go this way, let's see if it's going to focus. It might want to focus only on me. Let me try this again. Let me do this. Maybe I can trick it. Will it look at that? Well, okay, I'll just read it to you. So I got 4 buttons. One says feeding, one says normal, one says water change, and one says phytoplankton. And so what I did with feeding, I told it when I hit the feed button, it turns off the little in-tank filter for 10 minutes. That's it. When I do a water change, it turns off all the gear in the tank. So that way nothing is running so I can drain water out. I can pick things up, pick off algae, whatever I'm doing. And then after 15 minutes, all those things come to life. And then if I dose phyto, it turns off the in-tank filter and it turns off the UV. So that way the phytoplankton is not being killed off or sucked out or trapped against the carbon for 45 minutes. Now, something I do like about this that I don't think I can do with my Apex, if I'm done with my water change sooner than the countdown, and the countdown's right here on the screen, which I really, really like the countdown, because I hit the button, and for water change, I think it's something like 15 minutes, and then, I'm looking at it, it says there's 8 minutes left, I'm like, no, I'm done. I can tap normal, and it just immediately resumes everything and just ignores it. The countdown's just eliminated. But if I find that I'm running long, I just tap water change again, and the countdown goes back to 15 minutes and starts again, because I'm still in there doing stuff. So, it's pretty nice. I like that a lot. But I really, really want a button on the cabinet that I can push for feed and not have to open the app. That's what I want. And when I bought the X3 for that tank, I didn't realize I wouldn't have a certain type of port that I needed to do that third-party accessory that you plug in. And I'm like, dang it. So then, like, when the Minnow came out or, Launch came out, I was like, maybe I could do a conversion here and kind of expand to get me that, because I do like physical buttons. Now, I've been with Neptune since 2004. My first one that I got came with a used tank that I bought, the 280-gallon Reef that I ran. I bought it used. It was 6 months old. It came with everything, including a destroyed Aqua Controller 2. The tank was designed by the previous owner with holes on the back that he was trying to have returns push water in. So if you imagine a big, huge tank, right? And normally you'd have water coming at the top, just that's what you normally have. He put 2 holes down here in the back, right in the middle of the tank. There was an overflow here and an overflow here, but he put a hole here and a hole here. And he wanted water to come here and here and here and here. He thought if he had water going in there, that would keep circulation behind the rockwork going out and kind of really, there would be no dead spots. That was a thought. Terrible, terrible idea. Because as soon as the power went out, which happens in our area, and he was only 3/4 of a mile away from me, as soon as the power went out, the tank drained to those holes. It was a 280 and 100 gallons drained out of the tank and filled the entire living room with water. And 100 gallons is a lot of water. If you've ever spilled 2 gallons on the floor, and you're like, God, 100. And it was one of those houses that had, hardwood floors, but probably the floating hardwood floors, not the one that's like 100 years that you could just sand down and make perfect again. No, it was the kind that now it's all rippled and you trip on it It wrecked the living room. And so anyway, I ended up buying that tank from this guy. And when he flooded the room, he flooded the aqua controller too, which was sitting on the floor, of course, and not being mounted in the cabinet or secured somewhere up high like I always do with my electronics. So when I got it, and I was like, well, it's dead, I contacted Neptune Systems, and I talked to Kurt, the owner of the company, who I met at MACNA for several years, and I said, can you fix this? And he said, just send it to me. So I did. And he said, well, I can't fix it. I can just replace it. I basically will open up the case. I'll put in the new motherboard or whatever that piece was called. And, it's $200. And, you guys are thinking, oh, that's a frag. Back then, $200 was a lot of money. I was like, all right, fine. Because, I didn't have to buy it brand new, which probably back then, I don't know what aqua controllers went for, but I'm going to think it was probably 380, 450, with, an energy bar and a couple of probes maybe. So I was like, yeah, I'm ahead of the game. Because the energy bar was still good. The probes were still good. I just needed the brain. And I was like, 200, fine, whatever. I got a whole used system. I'm not going to complain about having to repair something. So I used the aqua controller for a long time. And then I bought the aqua controller 3. And I think I bought that one... It feels like I bought it new, but, I was in a club with 800 members, so there's a chance I bought it used. But it's like I bought the Aqua Controller 3, I think I bought it new, and it was like 3 weeks later, there was this reveal about the Apex controller. And I'm like, what? I literally just bought this one. I don't care about the Apex. I'm going to use the AC3. And so I used that for a long time. And then eventually... Yeah. Well, no, that sounds right. It did get changed to Apex, and then the label on the packaging started to change, probably because around that time Terrence had joined the company, and so the brain itself had this white label with the orange, and suddenly it was a black label, and he changed it to a white label with the orange because that was the new company colors. And so that new version of the Apex came out, and I still didn't get sucked in. But I really wanted to do a workshop about how to use the Neptune controller for the club. And so anyone that put one up for sale on our club forum, I bought it. I bought like 5 systems, and I had boxes and boxes of all kinds of components from Neptune that over the years, I just reach in and grab another thing when I need something. And it's been really practical. We never did do the workshop. Here I spent hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands, I don't even know, because I did it over time. But I had all these brains, all these energy bars, I had probes, I had accessories, I had breakout boxes, and all kinds of gizmos. And I kept thinking, this would be really cool because we had this meeting place for our club where we had these big round tables. It was like a big, like a banquet type scenario where you could have 8 people eating at a table, and there was multiples of those. And I said we could put all the gear in the middle of each table and let people actually put it together and understand where things go and what not to plug into what port. Because there was, the Ethernet port, and then there's a different port that was used for 0 to 10, and you just need to know the difference. And so I thought a workshop would be really cool for hands-on. And, I had this idea. I spent a bunch of money in preparation. Never happened. That's me. That happens so often. It's actually embarrassing. But I've just been with them for so long, and the system is very stable. I don't run into a lot of problems. There's the occasional hiccup. And other than that, I'm very happy with what I have. And so when you compare which is better than the other, I mean, the Hydros has been very stable. The one time I had water get down into my cabinet, it was because I had just received a shipment. I think it was the shipment I got from ACI where I put in all those zoanthids. And so I had all the bags, and I took them out of the box, and I put them in the tank. And the tank was literally to the brim. I was like, whatever. But it was to the brim plus enough of the air bubbles to push liquid down the tubing and start trickling down into the cabinet. And immediately there was a noise. I was getting texts on my phone. And when I opened the cabinet, the Hydros, the parameter was flashing red at me like, warning, warning, warning. So I'm looking in there, and I don't see any water. I'm like, what is this alert? I didn't think it was a problem yet. But then when I stuck my head all the way in the cabinet with a flashlight, I saw like this much water right in the very corner because it only a little tiny drip at a time was coming down the wiring and the tubing down into the cabinet from the back of the tank, and it was just enough to activate that cable, that rope that the Hydros offers, which is I thought would be a great thing. And I actually put it in the entire inside perimeter of my cabinet so that way something happens, it would notify me, and it totally did. And the really cool thing I like about the rope, as soon as you dry it off, it immediately stops making noise, which is really cool too. And the light stops flashing, and everything's back to normal again. So, of course, all I did was drain some water out of the tank, mop up my little puddle of a mess, and not make that mistake twice. So, other than that, I haven't had any problems. I did struggle a little bit with their firmware update system, where it says download this, and I did, and it says download this, and I did. And it turns out that if you press and hold for like 3 seconds, it downloads all of them at once, which wish I'd known that. But that's learning curve. That's just learning how something works. But yeah, I've had no failures. And then with my Neptune system, I've had no failures either in 20 years. Got in 2004, this is 2024. And I've been using the Trident now for many years. I've had to have the Trident replaced, but the brain has never been replaced. Probes last forever. Energy bars last forever. Old energy bars work with the current Apex, which is awesome. So I have like an EB4 up there. So I like that modules aren't like you have to have the latest one to make it work with this brain. I really appreciate that exists. I think they both have strengths, and I think there are some weaknesses. You could look at anything and say, well, I don't like this or I don't like that. I feel like the app from Hydros needs to improve. And there are certain things I would love to see it do that it doesn't do right now. I very much delve into the graphs of the Apex, and I rely on them for information. When I had energy problems here in my area for weeks at a time, I was actually able to track the terrible power coming into my home from the power company. And I was able to show a guy. I had printed out pages like, look at these erratic spikes. This is not stable power. And he was like, huh, okay. And so he climbed up and, replace some stuff. And eventually the problem was probably a quarter mile down from me. They fixed whatever was wrong there, and it solved the problem for all of us. I was like, yeah, okay. I knew it. I knew it wasn't a problem in my house or on my house. I was 100% certain. But of course, they always try to blame your property. Like, oh, well, the problem's here. I'm like, no, all of us are struggling with this. I've actually talked to neighbors, and I was vacuuming my carpet, and you could hear the motor change sounds because the power was changing. And then I have a water pick, and as I'm water picking, it's like, brrr, brrr. I'm like, what? And then lights, of course, were flickering around me, and you could hear the microwave cycling. I'm like, this is a real problem. It's systemic. It's the whole house. It's coming from you guys. So the graphs there were fantastic. And when I had a heater fail on my tank, and I have 3 heaters on my 400 gallon, I had a heater failure. I didn't even know it. I just wasn't aware. And so I went back through the graphs because I can go back 3 months. And I found the exact day when it had stopped heating. And I was like, wow. So, that kind of stuff's important to me, and I like it. I like that it uses Face ID to log me into my app, so I don't have to sit there and put in a password. When Hydros wants a password, I'm always like, oh, what is it? That's a personal problem, right? I don't use, I have... At this point, I probably have nearly 100 passwords. And so I have a lot of different ones. Nothing's the same twice, so that, for security reasons. And so, yeah, trying to figure out which one I need for that one's always a frustration. I'm like, why didn't you remember it? Why did you let go? And if they would roll out Face ID, that'd be awesome. If they would let me change how the tiles display on the screen with a tap and not have to unfold something and make a change and then unfold it back to put it back the way it was, I would like that. I just think the app will get better. I'm sure, right now they're innovating gear, but, the interface, look, a lot of us bought the Camor dosing pump. And many of us, or all of us, complained about the Camor app. And I think the biggest complainer I know of personally is my friend Bobby, who literally was in an email war with a company in China saying, no, this is not right. You need to fix this. And they were actually back and forth apologizing and trying to get his situation resolved. So, yeah, the apps always matter. And when an app doesn't work right, it changes your whole feeling of how you feel about the product. And so I've been happy with Fusion for a long time. Of course, I would like improvements. I would love on a computer screen to have all the columns across. So it's 5 columns instead of 3. It's been 3 forever. I've always felt like if you could just take all the stuff on the bottom and put it on both sides, I'd literally have it all in one screen. I could see it. Hydros is a web app, so you can pull it up on your screen and you can have any shape you want. And there's one guy in the Hydros group that I think he has like 500 modules. It's insane. There's so many icons. I'm thinking, how many tanks do you have? Are you a fish store? What is happening here? It's very impressive. It's like his screen looks like NASA. I'm sure he's somehow tied into SpaceX. I mean, he has to be. That's craziness. So there's a lot of control there. But the actual app on my iPhone that I use, not the web browser version, I want that to be better. And I'm sure it will be at some point. I think either controller will probably do you well. And that's why I've been selling both types for my website for the last couple of years. Because I use them both and I find them to work. If I didn't like something, I wouldn't use it. I'll tell you another little story here. And I know I haven't answered a lot of questions. I got one question and I just found myself delving into it. Many years ago, I do product reviews from time to time. But my product reviews almost always are super slow. Because I want to try the product for months. And I want to take it apart and clean it. And I want to see how hard it is to put back together. I want to, give you a story. I don't want to just like, hey, this thing just came in today and it's awesome and I love it and you should buy it too. I very, very rarely get that that impulse. There was one product I got a few years ago. I don't know what it was, but it was awesome. I opened it. I was like, this is exactly what I wanted to be. And I knew within, 60 seconds, this is going to change my life and everyone should have one. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind. I was not at all concerned that I was going to be let down later. I mean, it was just solid. Whatever that thing was, God, I'm trying to think what it is. But anyway, it blew me away. And I was like, I could do a review about this one right now. I mean, that's where I am. I'm a very honest guy. And so when I see something, I can either hold back and have nothing to say, or I can hold off and say something later, or I can just go directly to the company and say, this is terrible. So there's a company that was around for a while and they're gone now. So I can talk about this. There's no signed anything. It's not an NDA thing I'm revealing or anything. It's just, they said, hey, Mark, we want you to review this sump. And I was like, I build sumps for a living. Like, yeah, we know. And I was like, do I want to review a sump? I mean, it's like I'm reviewing a competitor. I just don't get it. And he's like, yeah, it's really cool. We want to send it to you, no cost. And, we just like you to share it. Just tell people about it if you like it. If you like it, talk about it. And so I said, all right, send it. And there was a couple of things that intrigued me. But then when I received it, I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. This is awful. This is so bad. I can't share any of it. There's nothing good about this. Nothing. And so let me tell you about this sump. The brand at the time was Vertex, and they came out with this sump that was square, and it had an angled front, vertical, just a slice. There was a slice missing, and that was intentional, so you could put these triangular dosing containers against the sump to complete the square. So can you picture that in your mind? I'm going to draw it here. So you got your square, you got a square side here, come down, and then angled, and this little triangle was your dosing thing. Now, the cool thing with the dosing thing, and I actually have them still. I didn't throw them away because I thought these are kind of neat. I might use them one day, but I haven't to this day. You put one on the bottom. It was the biggest one. It would probably hold alkalinity. And then you put the lid on it. And then you put the next container on top, like you're stacking Tupperware, right? The next one on top would be your calcium, and the next one on top of that would be your magnesium. And then you had these straws that went through the top one, through the second one to the bottom one. That would get your alkalinity. The different straw would go through the top one to the calcium, and then the top one, of course, magnesium. And I was like, okay, that's kind of neat. I actually like that. It's like a space saver, and I think that could work. It's interesting, and there was no way for the liquid to move from one to the other. It seemed very safe. However, behind the triangle part of the sump, now you had this compartment where the filter sock was, where water would drain in. and they had made a cover to lay on top so it looked very sleek. And the water would go through a hole in the cover into this filter sock. And then it's supposed to, how does a sock work? The liquid goes in and it comes out the body of the sock. But that's not what they designed. What they designed was it goes into a sock, but it's all kind of overflowing the sock and going straight across. And then there was this little tiny notch gap that would pour over and down a wall and fall like 10 inches into the skimmer zone. And then it had to go through this weird box you put inside that was literally a physical return zone you put in. They had this weird like double wall construction. And I had to say, why are there these weird extra compartments around the microscopic return zone? He says, oh, you could put in sponges inside those notches so the water would pass through one sponge or pass through the other. And actually we're making different sponges. So you got the regular sponge, you got the one that removes phosphate, you got the one that removes nitrate, or you got the one that, I don't know. So it was just, they had different types. They had like a brown sponge and a green sponge and a black sponge. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. But the return zone was so small that I just knew once you got this running, the evaporation rate would be rapid because it's a puddle of water. If a return zone's large enough in a sump that, it can go I was going to say a few hours. If it could go at least a day without top off, that's a really good setup. Automatic top off is important, but especially if you're not going to automate, if you're going to manually put it in, if you have to top off 3-4 times a day because the return zone's so small, number one, you have to go ahead and automate that. You have to. I mean, it's not even an option now because it's that critical. If you were not to replace the water that's evaporating, you're exposing the pump, which could burn up, or you're pumping in a zillion bubbles in your tank, which again is not good for your tank either. So the return zone was too small. I knew that. The lid I talked about, a new problem also. Again, I'm just looking at the design and like, So when I'm putting it together, they gave you this bracket for all your dosing tubes to go into from that triple stacked triangular thing. And the tubes would go through the lid into the bracket that was mounted inside the sump that had screws to hold the tubes in place. Okay? So I'm thinking, all right, I've got my drain coming through the lid. I got my dosing tubes coming through the lid. How do I take the lid off? Because the tubes are screwed in. So I would have to like lift the lid. Everything would have to have enough bend in it to allow me to lift it up over the drain pipe and up over the dosing tubes. And I've got dosing heads in that area. How am I going to lift this lid? Magically, it's not going to work. And then the problem with the water not going through the sock, but really even with the sock and just pouring out, it's like the sock was doing nothing. Maybe it was catching the bulk of the bubbles, but it wasn't a filtration method at all. And then I looked at the seams, and they were okay. The material didn't look like 1/4 inch. It looked a little thinner. It was probably 3/16. And someone had glued in along the bottom seam like a very, very minute triangular shaped stick that kind of gave you that bevel to kind of like reinforce the thinness of the seams. And I was like, I cannot do a review about this sump because I hate every bit of it. The whole thing is awful. The lid should have been notched around the tubing and notched around the drain to where you could lift it out and put it aside. Right now, you're asking me to like somehow angle up the back and try to get, and I didn't even mention, putting the sock into that weird bracket was impossible. And once it was in, you'd never get it out again. And I was like, how am I supposed to take the sock out? He says, well, you lift the bracket out. I said, how do I get the bracket out? Because of the lid on the drain pipe. And he was like, and I said, you know what? This was designed on a computer, wasn't it? Like in CAD or something? Because they had like this commercial that they were creating where it was like the whole thing came together. Like when they show the engine blowing apart and you see all the different cogs and gears and camshaft and the oil pan and all those things like just, and then it becomes a vehicle again. That's what they did with the Vertex sump. And I was like, you guys, it's so pretty, but it is absolutely unusable. I would never use this. I hate every bit of it. I can't think of a single instance where I could make this work. The triangular thing might work, but actually, it only works if it can lean up against the sump. Standing by itself, it's top heavy, so it's going to want to flop over. So there was the risk of you're changing the collection cup of the skimmer and you bump it and it all falls over like a tower of blocks. I was like, that's no good. But I said, you know what did catch my eye that I can do a review about? I can review the skimmer. The skimmer seems good. And he says, okay, do the skimmer. That'd be great. So I did. And I used that skimmer for a while and I liked it. And I ran it for a while and I did my review. And that's on this channel. It exists. When the Nio skimmer came out, I probably ran it for 3 or 4 months before I did the video review. I really take my time on reviews because I want to make sure that when you get the information, that it's accurate and it's not just me trying to sell a product. So that's why you don't see lots of reviews on this channel, because because of the truth aspect. And then secondarily, when everything's working on my reef, the last thing I want to do is change something out with something different. I don't have that hankering for, oh, I want to try that pump. Ooh, I want to get rid of my Vortex and put on, an XYZ gyre or whatever. That's not my thing. And, I've had companies in the past say, hey, would you try out this pump? Like, where? I'm like, well, yeah, you'd have to get rid of this. Like, everything's working on my tank. I don't really, basically, I don't want to mess with success. If I was having issues or I was looking for a newer, better solution, yeah, I'm definitely intrigued, and I do keep my ear to the ground. I'm listening. Matter of fact, I listen even more now because of Coral Magazine. So, all right, that's the first one. That was the first question I answered. Let's see. Yes, Reef Keeper, I do need an upgrade. So do I need the minnow? Do I need the launch? Do I jump on, and I don't even know what that tester is going to cost. Can you imagine buying an automated tester for a 27-gallon tank? But I do have another tank in the works. So that one should be interesting what goes under it. Matter of fact, I don't even know what's going in it. I don't even know what livestock. I actually have been thinking okay, I'll throw this out there. Hypothetically, if Mark was setting up a 205-gallon tank in 2024, what kind of livestock should he put in it? All right, I'm going to leave it there. And if you're listening and, after the live stream's over, put it in the comments below. Tell me what you think might be a good choice, because I have zero idea of what I want to put in. I've played with thoughts like fill it up with 12 inches of sand and put in a ton of garden eels. I thought about being an angelfish collector. I love acanthophilia and corals like that, but I normally can never keep those types because I have angelfish and I have a butterfly, and those things pick at those big meaty corals, and so I've avoided them. I've had people on this channel recommend clams, so maybe that tank could have clams, that's something. But I just don't know what I want to do in that tank. I don't have a plan. But I can tell you that little sliver you see back there, that room, that's where this tank is going to go. I can tell you that much. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, yes, Reef Keeper, thank you for mentioning that. Okay, before we were talking about what things can do. Yes, the XP8 does do power monitoring and will even tell you if you set the ranges, if a pump is either running too much power or not enough power. So like, for example, I had the air pump that's on Caitlin's tank is not plugged into the hydros. It is intentionally plugged into a UPS to always run no matter what. That is the emergency power for that tank. If the power goes out here, that air stone will continue to bubble air into the tank and keep water circulation so that the Japanese pygmy angelfish will be okay. And so if the power goes out for 15 minutes or goes out for an hour, if it goes out for 6 hours, that air pump will continue because it's a little air pump that I think pulls 3 watts of power into a UPS that has it's like a UPS 1200 or something. And I've never actually seen it run out and die. I haven't seen it run out and die. It may have run out and died during Markna when I was in this room doing a 24-hour live stream when we didn't have power from 10 o'clock at night until 10 o'clock the next night. And there's a chance that it did at some point die, but by then I had hooked up a generator and ran cords to everything, including Caitlin's Reef, so it was on power and it wasn't relying on the UPS. But what I did to make my life easier for the water changes is I bought a module, a little plug. I don't know what they call them. It's a plug, but smart plug. You plug that into the UPS, and then you plug the air pump into the smart plug, And so when I hit that water change button, it stops the smart plug from working, even though the UPS is still giving power. So the air pump stops. So when I take the lid off, I don't have spatter before I start to drain water out, and I don't have spatter as I'm refilling the tank. And then once the water change timer comes to 0, the smart plug comes back to life and it resumes. But other than the smart plug, that air pump is always on all the time. And if you lose power and the smart plug loses power, it still is letting power go through, which is interesting. I've tested this. It actually works. And it's been working like that for the last year, which is fantastic. Now, the power monitoring that is in the XP8 allows, it was telling me that the pump wasn't pulling any power. And I was like, that's weird. It literally turned red and said 0 watts. And I'm looking at the pump and it's running. I was like, well, it's not 0 watts. And so what ended up happening, I had to buy a new smart plug. I had to replace one. I don't know what happened to it or why it died or failed or whatever. And, I talked to CoralView. I checked a couple of things and finally it was just like, just put a new one on there. So I did. I just swapped it out and all is well. But having the ability to monitor power and give you a notification if a pump is running too much power or not enough is great. Especially, and there's a ton of options for every single outlet that you can. There's more than I understand. And to be honest, sometimes I have to sit there and really think, what do I need of this whole list of choices? And the same can be said for the Apex. As you're trying to set things up, you can also say, how does this work? But the Apex has been around for a really long time. There's a lot of people using it. And so there's always someone out there that can help you to figure it out. I mean, there's people that... Carlos, who works for Hydros, I can't tell you for how many years he wrote and helped people in posts on Reef Central and probably Reef to Reef to program their Apex. And he was doing videos showing you exactly how to use the code in the Apex. And now he's a tech guy. And so now he's doing all that for Hydros. And you don't see him doing any Neptune stuff anymore. But so there's always people out there that can help you to figure it out. There is lots of, the Hydros has... The one thing I felt Hydros didn't have, and that was a year ago, and maybe now it's different, I didn't understand how to start. You had your box of goodies, and I'm like, what's the first step? I need to know the steps. And I couldn't find it. I went to their YouTube channel, and I couldn't find it. Now, maybe all that's changed since then. But I really felt at the time that was a big limiting factor because I didn't know what to do. I was totally in grandpa mode. I was like, oh, I don't know what the kids do these days. I was just like, I don't know if I plug this into this now, is it going to hurt it? Is it going to ruin it? Am I going to short it out because I don't know the process. And so I felt that was lacking at that time. And maybe now they insert a card that, sort of like, when you get anything brand new, there's this big thing you unfold and there's like, graphics, do this, do this, and by step 6, you're done. That would be awesome. And maybe that exists. I don't know. And maybe it does with the launch, or maybe it does with the minnow, or maybe it does with, anything else that they come out with. I don't know. Because, even Neptune's been doing that. As you get new products and you open the box, there's always like a little cheat sheet that tells you how to do it. And then there's tasks in the Fusion app. You literally go through the list and you find the task you want to do, how to set up the Trident, how to use Alexa with Trident, with Fusion, how to calibrate pH probe. It just walks you through it, so it's not nearly as hard as it was, 10, 15 years ago. I think every company that's making any kind of a controller, and there's been quite a few on the market over the last 15, 20 years, they all are trying to make it simpler so that more people want to buy it. And to run a tank without a controller really it's making your life harder. I mean, I truly believe that. I don't like running a tank without one. I don't like the mystery factor. I want to know how things are going, and I definitely love the ability to quickly turn something on or off. And especially, what I love about a controller is if I turn something off, if I set it up correctly, if it's programmed right, it will resume later on its own because it doesn't rely on me to remember to plug it in. Like, for example, I don't have a button on my frag tank, the frag tank that we never talk about. And I really need a button for that one to stop the skimmer so I can clean the collection cup. But what I've been doing forever is I reach to outlet number 1 and just pull the plug out and it falls down on the floor in the middle of the walkway. And I clean the collection cup and then I put it back on and then I pick the cord up off the floor and I plug it in outlet number 1. Easy breezy. I've been doing it forever. But if it wasn't lying across the floor, I would probably forget to plug the skimmer back in. But if I had a button that does a countdown, I could say, turn off for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever it takes, and I could just hit the button. It would cycle it off. I could take the cup off, go to the sink, clean it really well, get distracted, answer a phone call, and then, take my cup, put it back, and then it comes back to life again. That would be awesome. And I really love when things resume and it's not like, oh my God, I turned this off yesterday and I totally forgot to turn it back on. A controller keeps it going. Or it can send you a notification. I'm still not getting power on this outlet. Hello, is that right? And you're like, oh no, that's not right. Let me go over there and hit a button and activate that, So I do like those kind of features. I do recommend them. Okay. Rick says, any luck with the dinos? Did you add any Live Rock Enhance? Nope, I didn't add any Live Rock Enhance, but I got something new to try out called Remediate. I think that's the right way. And it's still sitting on the counter. Oh my God, I've been this is, what's the right terminology? This is the hardest week of Coral Magazine with every issue. The final week is intense for the entire team. And I'm in charge of the team. And I get super intense too because I want everyone to be happy and I want everyone to keep moving and I don't want anyone waiting on anyone. And that's tricky for me because I'm an only child. I tend to do what I got to do and get it done and move on. And now, for example, I have to write the letter from the editor, which, by the way, I hate the name of that. If you guys could tell me a different name, I might adapt it. So this is the editor's page of the last issue. And this one right here, I write it. It's not crazy long. It's probably 600 words. And then 3 other people have to review it and make sure that it makes sense and that it doesn't have typos and that it's clean. And they make me sound more intelligent, which is great. But I want to write it and turn it in so they can lay it out. But that's not what I get to do. I have to write it and then I have to tell the editors, hey, I need you to look at this really quick because it has to go to layout. And, they have lives too. They're not just like sitting by their computer waiting for Mark to magically submit a document. They will get to it and then they will get to it and then they will get to it. And then I have to go clean up all their corrections. And then, I tell layout, here it is, it's ready. And then we have to look at that again as a laid out article and look for any mistakes, typos, straggly words, missing italics, wrong link, whatever. We have to proof it again. And then of course, layout says, where's the caption? I'm like, So I'm like, okay, what can I put here, And that's just one page of the whole magazine. And it's usually the last page of the magazine. And so I tend to write it at the very end when everything else is done because now I have the whole magazine in my mind. It allows me to either talk about it as a whole or talk about some feature of it I liked or talk about something entirely different that has nothing to do with the magazine because it's my page. It's my, quote unquote, it's my personal playground. So, that team effort, though, it's harder because I just want to read it, proof it, and send it in. And to be honest, like I said, they find flaws every time. And, they write stuff, and I read their work, and I find flaws in it, too. So it goes both ways. The fresh eyes from other people definitely is what makes this publication so great. It is the cornerstone magazine of the industry. This magazine's been around for, I think it came out in 2006? This is Volume 1, Issue 1. This came out February, March of 2004. This was the very first Coral magazine in the United States. And that's my collection right there. And I have almost all of them. I'm missing maybe 6 issues out of 20 years. So recently, Jason was kind enough to send me a care package of back issues that I didn't have in my collection to fill it out. And I have, on the floor behind me, there's a whole bunch of extra magazines I have some I'm sending to him. So we're fixing each other's libraries, which is kind of cool. And look how nicely he wrapped this so it wouldn't get ruined. Maybe I should wrap his as well. I'm laughing because he's probably watching this show. All right. Next thing, let's see. Oh, so anyway, yeah, the dinos are still there. They're just this brown stuff on the sand. It seemed like it was really going away, and then it got worse again. I'm like, dang it. So Chris Meckley at ACI says, use Remediate. I'm telling you, it's going to solve it. And because I've been so slammed with coral, the last thing I want to do is try and babysit tanks. I have ignored the tanks. I feed them every night. I make sure top off's happening. And, that's it. This is the weekend. I want to clean the glass in both tanks is hideous. I want to clean those up. And I want to do my water testing. I want to know where we're at. Reef Keeper says, I still am running the Vertex calcium reactor and I hope I never need parts. Yeah, that's true. And Ray Rock says, I'm using the Vertex refractometer. I think I might have had one from them. I definitely have one from Cybon. Do you remember that? Cybon was that company that I used back in, I don't know what you call that period, 2010 forward, the 2010s. I think I used Cybon for like 4 or 5 years. From 2011, probably till 2016, I used Cybon salt. And I don't know anyone that used it but me. But I talked about it, and the only company selling it was Premium Aquatics. Lord Thornton says, are you going to be speaking at Aquashella? I am. I actually am. Somewhere here, I have a little graphic. Ta-da! I will be there both days. And so my presentation is what I use to maintain my reef tank, or to maintain my reef. And it's going to be it's going to be a presentation, obviously, slides and stuff that goes on a screen, but I'm going to have something in front of me and I'm going to actually show you the things I use. So it's going to be more of a demo, which I think will be cool. Because I was thinking, and I haven't done it in forever, and that's why I thought, this could be a topic. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you are following someone that you like, that you're inspired by, then you tend to want to know what they do. And, you want to know what they use. You want to know how they do it, because clearly they have success. How are they doing that? Because we all have an aquarium. It should all be equal, but it's not. We can all have a glass box, but one guy can make an amazing biotope, and another guy could have just a puddle of garbage. And it all comes down to the application of knowledge and the selection of gear and the protocols they use to accomplish the duties that the livestock demands. Boy, that sounded so professional. It's like I was writing for Coral. And those things that, if I said to you, you should clean your glass, that doesn't give you enough information. Because you're like, okay, I have Windex and paper towels, I'm good to go. That's not what I meant, And that's why a lot of times when people ask questions online, I'm asking them questions back before I even answer them. Because I don't have enough, they didn't give me enough info to give them an answer. And I'm just going to spit out guesses and hope one of them is right? No. Just give me the information so I know what you're actually looking for. So when it comes to cleaning glass, I would want to recommend several things. Are we talking about the inside or the outside? Are we going to use a cleaning magnet that you can scooch across the glass? Are we going to use a scraper that's got a long handle? Do we want to use a scraper that's metal on it? But no, your tank is made of acrylic, so that's not smart. Do you want to use a credit card scraper, or use something in your hand to get in a spot because you can't get anything else there because of the corals? And then, what about for those really deep cleans where you have to go in there and really get out every nook and cranny and along the sand bed and into those corners without hurting the silicone? If I told you the things I was using, you could do the same. But if I just said you should clean your glass, then you're like, okay, I have a cleaning magnet, so I'll just do this. And you're like, but my tank never looks like Mark's. So that's why this presentation is going to happen, where I'm going to talk about the things I use and how I use them, and hopefully it'll be a fun one. You know what? I had that folder open before. I probably closed it. So I'm going to go ahead and find you this. I'm going to stick it on the screen, leave it there in the background for incentive for you to get your subscription today. I'm just say tomorrow. I was going to say or tomorrow. I really want you to get the subscription today. That's what I want you to do. And the reason I want you to do it today is because that way your name, your subscription will go into the database so that it gets shipped to you. Because if you subscribe after that goes to the printer, It's going to be weeks or months till you get your issue, which is really hard and not fun. So here is the new cover. And look, it covers the doorway perfectly. So coral diseases. And there is so much disease in this magazine. So much. Tons. And we kept getting more and more and more. So I hope you guys subscribe. The link is in this video's description. It's less than $39 for a year. You get 6 magazines shipped to your door, and you get the digital edition, which allows you to even go back all the way to like 2014 and read previous magazines. So there's an arsenal of library at your fingertips just to be a subscriber. And as Matt always says, you're feeding his children. So let's feed his children. Let me feed my dog. I guess we'll just start talking about our pets and our children. Reef Keeper says, what happened with the anemone tank? Still temporary. Yes, but coral is going to print. Print goes, away. I get a little break, a breather. I'm going to go ahead and get that stand knocked out. That is on my list this week coming up, this next week. I'm going to go ahead and get the piece of wood I've been needing for 6 months, get it attached to the stand. Also have a piece, I'll get a second one to go around the canopy part that I'm doing. And then I can stain it, seal it, get it into the house, get the cube onto the tank, drill holes through the wall, patch holes where the old plumbing was, and get that tank tied in. The beauty of it is it doesn't have to cycle because it's tied into the 400-gallon reef. So it's just going to be a matter of tying it all in nice and cleanly, filled up with water, which immediately dilutes the 400 by a fresh 60 gallons of water. And the underneath cabinet, there will be nothing in there that I can think of. I'm really wanting it to be a storage space for my test kits and my tools and my top-down photo box, so it stays clean and dust-free. So when I need to use it, I can just grab it, and I'm not having to go take it to a sink and rinse it off because I want to use it because there's dust in it. Speaking of dust, I was really, really surprised that I have 0 pictures for 2024 in my my computer directory. I had to take this picture of this product for this ad that we're doing in Coral Magazine, and I had to take the DSLR off the tripod to take the product shot. And I have been using that for my live stream every week since last year. Ever since I set up this room, I kind of parked the DSLR there, the Nikon, and I didn't move it. It was just, it's in the right spot. I just kept it, turned off. And when I had to do the show, I brought it to life, and it was my camera. And so I had to export the pictures I just took, and I'm in Lightroom, and I go import the pictures, and then it says where do you want to put them, and I was like, where they always go. And then I'm looking at the directory, and it shows, what does it always say? Desktop documents, downloads, and it says 2022, 2023. There's no 2024. I was like, I haven't taken a single picture this year. That tells you how I feel about my reef, that I have not taken pictures of my reef. It is just not where it needs to be. It's not a nightmare, but I've been having losses very slowly. There's a coral disease in my tank that's been going on for the last 6 months or more. And so Chris Meckley and Amanda talked to me about this protocol that you're going to read about in this issue, and they sent that to me as well as the Remediate, and it's sitting on the counter. I should have put it in the tank already. Chris is probably going to be mad that I haven't, but I was kind of like, I'm busy with coral. And I was really busy with this crazy project that I really should show you guys this. Let me see if I can get some wires plugged in. I'm going to have to make my phone a secondary camera here for a second. So I'm going to show you guys something I built here recently. It was really, really important I get it done in time, and it had nothing to do with the aquarium trade. Oh, wrong wire. Dang it! Wrong wire. Okay, I got a different wire that's ready. It's okay. I got this super long wire right here. So we got that. Let's see. We need a picture-in-picture here. Let's see if I can add a camera. Actually, let me get the picture up first. Yes, trust this computer. That's funny. I think I'd never plugged it in before. Okay. How am I going to do this? Let's see. We need to insert a camera. There's a nice orange box. It's the wrong shape. And we're going to put in here that. Disconnect. Oh, it's acting like a camera. Sorry, I did it wrong. I thought you'd do it this way. Let's see. Video source. Oh, it disappeared. Let me try it again. Well, it's showing you that. That's not what I'm trying to show you. Pause. Do this. Sorry guys, can't figure out why I can't figure this out. Is there another way to do this? What else could it be? Maybe it's this? That's not it. Let's see if there's a choice. Huh, that didn't work either. Well, bummer. Anyway, I had... There's always a way, right? I had to make this thing. So what you're looking at there is a really, really tall box. I'm going to put up here. That in the background, the one with the blue tape on it, that is a clear cover, like you might put over a big statue to keep it from getting dusty. And then this thing in the foreground is a display that a product will be put on for a trade show. And I need to speed this up for you guys so it's not so boring. Let me just grab all this stuff. I'll just send it to my computer right now, and then I can just drag them on the screen. Just do that. And then I think I also have down here somewhere. I thought I had a video. I don't know. All right, I'll send this to the computer. Okay, got those 10 pictures. And then this will all be interesting in 1 second. Where is that? Too many texts. There we go. Let's see if I can figure out how to download this or upload. Mac Mini. All right, got it. Okay, so I got all that. Let me get rid of this. So you saw that. I'm going to show you. Here is that sloped thing. Now, I've never made a sloped thing before in my life, so this was a learning curve. And what this is a display that would be used that's being used at a trade show right now this weekend. That a thing that looks like the best comparison I can give you is a VCR, which I know is old technology, but you know it's a thing that's like 22 inches long and about 12 inches wide and about 4 inches tall. That's the shape of a VCR, and you put it on this thing, and then underneath a smoke machine was going to push smoke out of all those slits and fill the entire compartment of that cover that you see in the background that sits on top of it. And the gizmo that's sitting at an angle that's being showcased in this cloud of smoke would suck all the smoke out instantly. That's the principle. So I had to make this box for them, and it's enormous. And I'm looking for the next picture to show you that's of interest. Here's kind of the back of it. And also I had to figure out a way to ship it safely. This is a very weird shape to ship. And so that's the back side, and then the smoke making machine would go in the bottom. And then this is the platform that I built to go under it, which first it was like, can we have a tray? And it was like, can the tray have legs? can the tray hold the thing in the middle of it but not be too big? But the tray needs to be big enough for that cover to sit on, to nestle into it. And I was like, all right. So I had to, when you look at that tray, it's actually way more complicated than you think. It basically has like a kick plate like you have under your kitchen cabinets or your bathroom cabinets, that little recession. So that way, because it just had a couple of legs, the thing was so heavy that when you put it down, it could have rocked and even broken it. So here is a front view of that thing with the tray. And then here's a side view. Stick it on here too. Put it right there. And it's all made a 1/4 inch. Now, almost all of it's made of black except for the cover. And here is a picture of the cover on the base, but you couldn't see the product inside it because the paper's still on there, because I wanted to ship it with the paper so it wouldn't get any scratches, so it'd be beautiful at the trade show. I wanted it to be as pristine and brand new and perfect as it could be. So there it is sitting in its base. The box is so big. It's 25 by 25 by 37 inches. It's heavy, but not impossible for one person to lift, but 2 people have to lift it off that triangular thing with the product to get it off of there. There's no way one person can do it by themselves on a table at a booth. And then finally, I will show you the video he sent me of it. This is not the trade show, but this is what it looks like in their facility with fingerprints all over it. And I thought it came out great. So I'm very excited. I really look forward to seeing how it looked at the show. I'd love to see video of the smoke pumping into it and then the stuff going away. That would be awesome. All right, let's see. Okay, good. My microphone's still working. Now, how do I get rid of this video? This. See, I stuck it on the screen and now I'm gone. Let me do this. Boom, I'm back. All right. So that was a really intense project that had to be built, had to be perfect, and it had to happen in time to ship to get there on time. And it was super expensive to ship. UPS alone was like $460 to get that there. Craziness. And but and it got there intact, that's my biggest fear on all shipments always. Will they break it? It's the worst. It's the worst feeling. I pack for almost any contingency, but there's still the chance something's going to go terribly, terribly wrong. And, especially something had to show up in time. It was really, really important that I go ahead and get that there to them. And it did. It got there in time to where they could work in the workshop and figure out how to mount it, how to run the cables through it, and do a test to make sure it works right. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next. Awesome. Mina suggests maybe my big tank should be 200 gallons for an octopus. Are you kidding me? Those things are like this big and they live 1 year. But thank you. No, all suggestions are good suggestions, but that one's really dumb. I'm kidding. Atomic Aquaculture says, what kind of UPS do you use? I am using an APC UPS. I actually have 2 of them. One is under the 400 gallon for the Apex, so it can still notify me if there's a power outage, and it keeps the brain on. And then I have one under the Hydros that is the exact same model. And recently, and then I have one under my computer out in the workshop where the CNC machine is, because I don't want that to lose power ever in the middle of programming or in the middle of a run. And so those 3, I have to babysit them and replace their batteries from time to time. So I've had an account with Batteries Plus for a long time. And I walk in like, hey, Mr. Levinson, what can we get you now? I was like, I need another one of these, So real simple. You can get UPSs off of Amazon. I bought a really, really cheap one, unfortunately, from Amazon from Markna, because I wanted to make sure we didn't lose our router, because that was our internet. And that thing is so crap-tastic. I'm just like, I really regret buying it. I should have just bought, a decent one from Batteries Plus. But at the time, I was buying things like every minute leading up to the show. I was like, add to cart, add to cart. It'll be here in a day. It'll be here in 5 hours. It'll be here tonight. And I was just getting anything to cover any possible contingency contingency of something going wrong, never knowing we'd lose power for 24 hours. But that stupid UPS, while it's supposed to provide power continually, I've had a couple times where we'd have a flicker or a blip and it just turned the darn thing off and killed my internet. I'm like, are you kidding me? It doesn't just restart itself? It's a UPS. It's literally its one job. Reef Keeper says that Hydros has a QR code to show you how to get things started. That's nice. Michael says, and this is really funny you asked that because I was kind of thinking in my mind about this a little bit. He said, do you know what kind of reagents the new Trident's going to use as far as nitrate and phosphate? And is it going to use the same reagents as alkaline calcium and magnesium? Well, I'm going to assume it's going to be different. I mean, it has to be different because, it's a different test entirely. But it made me kind of chuckle internally because, we are aware of another company out there called ABC Reagents. And I was thinking, are they going to change their company name to ABCDE Reagents? And then I was thinking, who knows? The new Maven from CoralView, they might also, that same company might make stuff for their 5 tests. And this, I don't know. I mean, will they go down that rabbit hole? I don't know. But it was just something that crossed my mind today. So it's funny you asked. But yeah, I'm sure, it looks like the Tridents are the exact same shape. So I don't see that there's some way, and they're separate units. So I don't see how there's any other way around it. I'm curious if the reagent bottles will all be the exact same size for both units. Will there be like because I don't know. How is it made differently inside? Is there a different space? Is the drawer the same? Because we know the drawer holds 3 bottles on the Trident. So on the Trident NP, will there be like a filler bottle that's just a thing to fill space so the other 2 bottles stay in the front? Does the nitrate and phosphate need to be bigger bottles? I don't know. I haven't seen anything. This is just internet chatter from a reveal. Both companies were revealing against each other within 24 hours of each other. That's all I know. So that's why I said it's just a teaser. It's not a fact story. I want to break your eardrums as I cough. Stephanie says I should rescope the dinos. So she said Ostreopsis isn't usually on the sand. You probably have a different kind now. That happens. Yep, I can do that. I have the microscope right back there. Reef Keeper says, since you're speaking on refractometers, what are your thoughts on calibrating with calibration fluid? I have 4 bottles and they all read different. Which do you trust? It drives me crazy. I totally get the drives me crazy part because, it's the old saying, if a man has 2 watches, he never knows what time it is. It's so true. And I remember one day I was like, I'm going to get to the bottom of salinity. And I had the Milwaukee refractometer, the digital one you put on the counter. I had the Cybon refractometer. I had a Tropic Marin hydrometer, the big huge one. I had the Hanna salinity probe, I think they called it, that you'd push in that told you temperature and salinity. And I had multiple bottles of calibration solution. I was like, I'm literally going to just match all of these, and they're all going to say 35 ppt when I'm done. And the more I did my calibrations and my testing, the more confused I got, the more the results were all over the place. I had notes. I'd done a whole spreadsheet. I was like, none of this makes sense. I literally don't know what to trust. I actually, at this point, I don't trust anything. I was so at a loss. So I totally get the whole thought of how you say you're confused. He said that he has Aquacraft, 2 Little Fishies, and Brightwell, and they all read differently. I think you're going to have to, at some point, just pick one and say, that's my standard. That's the one I'm going to believe, and work from that point. I mean, that's kind of how we do it with all, when you really think about it, that's how we do it with all our test kits. If you use Salifert, you just believe it. If you were to test your water with a Salifert kit and with a NIOS kit, you may not get the exact same results. So now, was NIOS right or was Salifert right? Or is the variance, the margin of error, enough that both are within the target range of what the tank probably is? See, that's the challenge. I think that's why I really like to send off a water sample to get an ICP test. But when I do that water sample, I test the tank immediately and take note of it. So that way, when the results come in, I can compare what my test kit from ELOS said to what the Reef Labs ICP test says. So if my thing says 450 and they say 452, I'm like, okay, cool, they match. And if they were to say like 380, I'm like, whoa, is my calcium really that low? Is this ELOS test kit lying to me now? Is it time to replace the kit? Should I just retest and see if maybe I had a false test? That's the challenge. So I've been using the Two Little Fishies refractometer calibration solution exclusively for probably the last 5 years. Rather than trying all the different ones, I just use one. That's it. Dustin says, I just tuned in. How's your tank doing? It could be better. It's still full of gorgeous life, but there's flaws that irritate me, the owner of the tank. I'm sure you can relate to that with your own tank. You have people come over that visit your house and they're like, man, your tank's so cool. And you're like, yeah, but there's an aptasia there and this mushroom stung that. And I really wish that was clean before you got here and something fell over and I got to fix that. And they're like, oh, it looks fine to me. It's that kind of scenario. But I've been having some kind of a coral erosion situation happening here and there and affecting specific corals for some time. And it's been super frustrating and it's been pestering and bothering me for months. So that's the honest truth. But like I said, it's still pretty. I mean, it's fine. It's just, there's so much good that the little parts that are bothering me, it's not good that that's happening. It's sort of like if you had a tank full of corals, but you had Montipore eating nudibranchs slowly destroying your Monties, but you have so many other things that it's not critical, but you're aware that like a percentage of your tank is dwindling. And you're like, well, I don't want it to dwindle, I want that to get bigger and better, and I want to maintain color, and I want it to look good, and I don't want it to be destroyed. But sometimes we have certain things that just don't do well in the ecosystem. It's a closed ecosystem, and not all animals get along. Matter of fact, I just saw a post from Vincent Chalet, who is an avid diver, and he reports about about corals and fish all the time. A lot of times you see him on Reef Builders, you see him in Coral Magazine, you see him on Facebook, of course. And he's showing all this beautiful stuff. And he just said this yesterday in one of his posts, how he loves seeing these solitary corals that are just fantastic looking. And he said you never see that in a reef tank. Everyone always combines their reef with so many other things, and it just never happens. And he wished that he could set up a few individual biotopes for this one Acropora palmata or this one species of I'm going to say branching hammer coral, because I don't want to say the Latin wrong because I know I will. And because we invariably like, well, that's cool. I can add a Cephastria and I can drop in a clam, and these are not typical, normal, natural neighbors. We are always combining things from different areas into our system and creating this thing that we like with our own choices. It's like you're mixing your own batch of Skittles in your aquarium, and it's not just it does not match reality. Reality, you're gonna have big colonies of Pistolopora and some fish, and there might be an anemone and a pencil urchin. That's a Hawaiian biotope. That's it. Nothing else. Maybe you'll have a Nacerius snail pop out. It's very limited, and we are like putting in, I don't know, 60 different types of coral in our tank and want them all to grow in. But anyone who's been in the hobby a long time knows, oh yeah, that's really cool. Congratulations, you have 60 corals. In about 2 years, you're going to have 5. It's not that 55 are going to die. It's that 5 are going to dominate, and everything's going to struggle and just kind of evaporate away over time because of chemical interaction, stinging, accidents, failures. So there are going to be certain ones that just dominate. Exoset is here from the Solomon Islands, the home of the lightning maroon clownfish. I have never been there. Diacanthus Reef says, are they marketing 35 ppt reference solutions or the 0.000 style? The 35 ppt solution. And he said, I switched to a glass floating brewing hydrometer now. Let's see. Are you guys making fun of my naked phone? I always keep my phone without a case. I can't stand a case on a phone. I've had it like that for years. If I break it, I just get it fixed. Yes, Elaine, it was not designed to watch the eclipse. It was designed to be shipped on Eclipse Day. By the way, did you guys like the eclipse? Were you blown away? I loved it. It was amazing. Hey, if ABC is being distributed by CoralView, which you're right, that is true, then it could become ABC 123 4 5 because of the 5 tests. Let's see. Yay! I really appreciate you purchase a 1-year subscription. I'm sure I'm going to say your name wrong. Inez? That is awesome. Thank you for doing that. Look, my work is done. I can end the live stream. I got 1 subscriber. Matt's children will eat for 1 more day. Matt is one of the owners of the magazine. And he's in the masthead, which is on the side of the table of contents. Dustin says, is there any coral that you've always wanted but never survive in your tank? Yes. Yes, there are. There's a few, of course, you know. There was one that I really, really wanted and thought I'd be successful with, and I was super disappointed that it didn't work out. And that was the wire coral. The wire coral, to me, and I may be describing it incorrectly. Now, Amanda is kind of listening to the show, so she's probably chuckling. But the wire coral, to me, looks like Tubastria on a coil that goes like this. So I already was keeping sun corals in this tank, and I thought, man, my sun corals are doing great. I feed them every single day. I can drop the wire coral in there, and you know it was bright orange and did a curlicue like the tail of a pig. And then there was all these little polyps that would open up all the way up the curlicue, and it did not do well. And I was like, man, I really wanted that thing to be amazing. And I haven't looked again for another one. It was one of those things. I was in California. It was in a display tank at a trade show. I said, what are you going to do with that when you're done with the show? And they're like, do you want it? I'm like, I'll buy it. You know, and I came home with it, and I was super excited. And it didn't work out. There are other corals that I've always wanted to go into, you know, to get, but I couldn't because of my fish population. Scolies are super popular. I've never bothered because I knew that they would just be food. They'd be clam chowder for my fish. You know, they were like, it's a snack. We can eat this. It's colorful and tasty. So I just didn't do it. For a long, long time, I could not keep green slimer or blue tort alive. And both of those I've been growing for some time now, for the last couple of years, which is pretty great. But I'm sure there's actually some more that are not on my mind. Why am I losing my voice today? Oh, God. DJ Mike Fury says, just caught your stream now. Based on the latest releases, do you see a brighter future for Hydros or Apex going forward? At least to me, Hydros seems to be truly innovating. There's definitely a lot of activity going on with Hydros, and I think that could possibly be because they started from ground zero and they're catching up. You know, they're incorporating all the different gizmos from I'm going to say this, and I might be incorrect, but it almost seems like it's coming from their warehouse because CoralView is a distributor. And so they have all these appliances, you know, all these tools, and they're like, we can put all of this into the Hydros. We can grab that company and that company and that company, and we can make them all plug in, and it'll all become one network, and we carry it all. I mean, it makes total sense. Neptune, when you think about the original Aqua controller back in 2004, and really it started, I think that company started in 98. When it first came out, it was a little box, black, with some holes along the bottom. Those 2 pieces were screwed together with this board inside. And, you know, a few wires came off, and the screen lit up on the front, you know, like a little window that would tell you, like, the time and the temperature, and you push buttons to make the numbers change on the front to do different things. It was very, it only had 2 buttons on the front. That was it. Maybe 3. And so maybe up, down, or no, I think it was really 1. You just kept tapping, and then tap the second button, do something. That was it. So Hydros has been really coming out of the gate hard, and they've been, putting their units in a lot of people's hands for some time. So it does seem like they just really hit the ground running, which is great, because there's been other companies out like GHL. Vertex was trying to come up with a super long controller that was supposed to do all this really cool graphical interface, but it didn't work out. And a lot of people that invested in it lost money. See if I ever clear my throat again. Just get out whatever's back there, or that frog needs to go. Yes. Exoset says, I see wire corals and reefs with deep water acros and large populations of crinoids, notably not reefs with tubastrea. Yeah, I'm not saying they are one. It's just, it kind of had that look to me. And that's okay. I would have liked to have kept that. Basically, what I need to do is I need to consider setting up an NPS tank, and then I could have all the non-photosynthetics in there, and I could just drown it with food all the time. The NPS tank is a really interesting tank because you can have these corals. You don't need a lot of light, so you don't have to spend money on expensive lighting because you only need enough light to see the corals. And what you're going to spend money on, a lot of money on, is food, because you got to constantly feed those corals because they are relying completely on dietary needs. And so, and I remember when I visited a guy somewhere on the east coast of the United States. I can't remember what state. He might have been in, might have been Rochester, New York. But I went to his house, and the whole tank was just filled with, it was a big tank, like 120 gallon. And he had bottles of phytoplankton that were just dripping in via gravity all day long, and the water was always green. I said, this is really cool, but I hate that the water's green. And he says, well, it's not green when I get up in the morning. I was like, it's too bad. He says, you have to feed all the time. I was like, eh. So it kind of turned me off to that idea. Clyde says, I just came from a buddy's house, and he uses the aqua controller to this day. The friend I stayed with in San Diego last summer, he's still running one of the original aqua controllers under his fish-only tank. Diacanthus Reef says that Mindstream had his interest. Yeah, the Mindstream was an interesting testing device, and actually one of my friends was an investor in it. And I was actually beta testing it for a while, but it just didn't work the way they hoped. So, well, listen, guys, we've been talking for almost 2 hours, and for some reason I'm just needing to cough, and I don't want to drive you guys crazy. I don't want to sound like a gravelly voice. I'm just gonna wrap up this show today. I want to remind you that today is Water Test Saturday. Please do test your water. Get off my screen so I can see what I'm doing here. Switch to this camera, please. Please do test your water because it saves lives. And we want to make sure that your livestock is healthy and happy. And, those test kits are there for a reason. Use them. That's all I'm going to say. And please subscribe to Coral Magazine today. That's it. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.